So I'd like to start out by talking about your coming out story. What was that
Am I,
like for
am,
you?
am I out?
Oh,
Start coming out.
sorry.
Okay. Now I'm out. Okay. I know it's going to be one of those days. I'll tell you. At the
That's
coffee,
okay.
at the gym. Yeah. No. So yeah, I don't know. Coming out at 32, closeted. I actually seroconverted before I came out.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. So I had a girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. Lived in Manhattan Beach, lived in this kind of closeted, by life, literally. And, I was getting tested all the time, doing all these things and trying to be safe, but I wasn't cognizant of all the like life and things that would take place. And, my story has been out there for other things, but, I seroconverted orally, which is not a typical for most people.
Hmm.
And at that time, it wasn't either in '93. And so, they were always like, oh, no, that's not how it happened. And I'm like, yeah, it is how it happened. But, the good and the good, bad, and indifferent 32 years later, my coming out as I seroconverted and then came out. Said, oh, I guess I am gay. So all my friends were like, yeah, we kind of already knew that. And, my
Were,
gay and straight friends were all
were
like,
you
because I was
living?
playing in gay volleyball and all kinds of other stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
were you living as a bisexual, or were you
Uh,
straight?
I was living, yeah, to everyone else and everything else, in California. I was living a straight life.
Okay.
I traveled for work, almost 3 weeks out of every month. And, if I was in Texas, they would say, oh, yeah, you're gay. I was in New York, in Texas, in Dallas, in Houston, in Orlando. I mean, I
Yeah.
was, relatively gay. And then living, working in a straight environment, very much so in that kind of scenario back in the day. So that, kind of kept it all under wraps. But I had a lot of gay friends from my San Francisco days and everything else, just as part of my, kind of extended family, if you will.
Hmm.
And then many of them had moved, they were from other areas. And so I would visit them when I was in other areas and living that life, but not by day, not by work. It was a whole different time at that time. So,
And becoming HIV positive at what age?
32.
32, and not fully out. That must
Yeah.
have messed with your thinking about gay life and coming out.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't have a gay life. I didn't have a gay sexual life, if you will, that actually curtailed. Uh, as I said, I kind of lived a bi life and, would go to, clubs and different things and play around with different individuals and just kind of have oral sex, if you will, to a point. But it's not long enough. But thinking I was safe and all that kind of stuff, 'cause I really didn't realize. But there was a underlying component that once I tell a physician that, they're like, oh yeah, I was playing volleyball and indoor, outdoor, on the beach, and 7 nights a week, 7 days and 7 nights a week, and teaching and coaching and doing all kinds of stuff, and just beating the heck out of my body. And so I was taking, which everybody laughs, I said 1,600 milligrams of ibuprofen daily
Wow.
for because I didn't know any different. I'm like, oh, it stops the pain and the swelling, so therefore it must be fine. And I'm young enough, and my liver was fine, and all those things. But it's like, oh yeah, yeah, those bleeding gums, all that stuff. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's where you are. Yeah, but it would just, it changed, and it still has ripple effects to today. Actually, I just had that discussion with some other friends and colleagues, and telling my story on some other platforms in the sense of just, with which we'll talk maybe later, but you know, sexual life at age 63. What does that look like?
Hmm.
And as much as it's open and different things in our world of today and in our community here, it actually isn't as much. And there's a whole different piece of that maybe we'll get into it later. But uh, you know, the more transparent you are, the more that people question and ask and do different things on a good note, but then they shut you out on a lot of notes. And so I spent many, many years closeted as a gay, closeted man sexually because I didn't want to, even after I had started having drugs and, undetectable and different things, I didn't want to give that to anyone else. I didn't want to experiment. I didn't want, anyone to even be close to me kind of thing.
Hmm.
In many cases, they didn't want to be close to me either. I have wonderful examples of that.
They didn't want to be close to you because you were HIV positive?
Yeah, I mean, they would be close to me in the sense of maybe friendship and doing different things. But if
Hmm.
you wanted to have any kind of a date, a relationship, and I was very open about it, and to a point. And some were like, "Oh no, I just can't do that. I can't date you. I can't go out." And I'm like, "Okay, and important you just close all that off and you just say, okay, fine, you know." And some of that is still today. It is just kind of funny. I mean, in our world of today with PrEP and things and all kinds of other and undetectable forever and all these things is still it's still prevalent,
Right.
and some individuals that are not are still question that
Do you find
because
there's
you've told them.
Yeah, do you find that there's an age range in there that where it is more acceptable?
uh, yeah, I mean, some of our older, maybe a more senior community, but at the same time, they've lived through a lot of it, so they
Sure.
maybe don't want to have a relationship because they don't want to have to. They think back and they think forward and they think, oh, I don't want to have to take care of you. I don't want this. I don't want to have to go on prep. If they are or they're not, who knows? And it's all really still a closed society. If
Hmm.
you and I'm very open about having that as part of any online. If I don't do a ton of online, but I have profiles and different things, and I'm very open about that aspect of it. So if somebody actually were to read my bio or profile, they would see that, um, in work or anything else. That just is part of who I am. But individuals would give you the time of day if they didn't know that and they want to go out or they want to play or they want to do something, if they see you somewhere at a pool party or something, and it's all fine. But as soon as you say that or they see it, it changes the dynamic in some ways. It's kind of ignorance and they don't want to know, but
Right.
once they do know, then it creates other mindset or maybe process for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you didn't and you did all the same things you were going to do anyway, they immediately were like, fine. Yeah. So it's
Right.
that kind of like, oh, okay, really? So being open and transparent is who I am, but it also doesn't always work to my advantage, I guess.